Hello and welcome to Talking Automotive with Mark and John. My name is John Sinclair and my co-host Mark Pallavestra.
Hi John, today we've got Chris Mallon. Chris is from ACM Parts, and ACM Parts are an auto recycler. Chris shares some really interesting information and busts a lot of myths around the recycling business and shows where the huge potentials are to lower your environmental footprint, but also value for money and to really short circuit the supply chain issues that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I was really amazed at how professional this sector of the industry has become and the level of professionalism they now have in the way they approach and do business. So really fascinating listen. So let's jump into it.
If you like what you hear today, don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Spotify and iTunes, and visit our website at autocurrents.com. We're reading some great books at the moment. You'll see them listed in the footnotes below. Definitely well worth having a look.
With 30 years' experience in auto logistics and state-of-the-art locations in 5 major Australian cities, Precar Fleet Services is an independent division of Precar Services, offering specialty fleet fit-outs for commercial applications ranging from simple tray and tow bar fitments to fully bespoke service body and accessory installation. With quality-assured safety, compliance and standardisation of vehicle builds, Precar Fleet Services are a premier all-in-one solutions provider for commercial vehicle fleet operators, leasing companies and original equipment manufacturers. For further information on how Precar Fleet Services can assist in solving your commercial vehicle fit-out needs, please visit precar.com.au and click on the link to Fleet Services.
Modera is a cloud-based, AI-powered CRM and retail platform aimed at digitizing the physical process of selling a car. The Modera platform sits between existing automotive dealer and OEM systems, providing car dealerships a quick and easy shift to digital ways of working, all done entirely digitally and with total ease.
Now, hi Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us today. Maybe to start things off, can you tell us about ACM Parts and what does ACM Parts do?
Yeah, look, thanks for the invite. So ACM Parts is a national auto parts company. So we supply new and reclaimed auto parts from accident damaged vehicles within the market. We're a supply division of ASX listed company AMA Group, so the largest panel repairer in the Australian market today. Our mission to redefine a repair, to create a better way to repair vehicles with a choice of options to extend the life of a vehicle by empowering busy customers, workshops, panel repairers, alternative products that are more affordable and sustainable for a repair in today's market.
This is a very exciting part of the industry here, Chris. We've often had questions of our podcast about new cars, used cars, repairs, parts and accessories, supply chain. And yet very few people understand what happens when the vehicle is at end of life. Now, end of life could be an accident, or it could be it's just aging and it's depreciated to a point where the value is not there as a complete vehicle. So what a lot of people now are asking us is, well, what actually happens at the end of a life of a vehicle, and how are they dismantled, and what's the process?
Yeah, great summary. And I think from the most of the repairs, our target range for a dismantled vehicle to supply parts back in the market is about 8 to 10 years for parts usage. So in a lot of those ones there, we're buying an accident damaged vehicle, not at the end of its life, still low kilometre, good quality product on those vehicles that will substitute new parts for a recycled part or a claimed part in an accident or a mechanical failure repair. So we'll buy them direct from the insurer or from public auction. We run a very data-driven model at ACM Parts, and then stock the parts that are in the highest demand and generally working off information from within our repair networks of what's available and what's not available from a dealer point of view, and then supplement that repair from a recycled. So ELV is a vehicle that is at the end of its life. Those ones there, we generally process them for scrap. So we'll drain all the fluids, recycle the fluids, get the scrap metal, process the scrap metal, and then about 80% of that vehicle will be reused or recycled, where about 20% then will go to landfill. So a lot better for our environment.
So Chris, in terms of which are the parts that are in high demand and most value, where do you focus to get the best return for yourselves?
In the most part, the engine and transmission is the highest value of the vehicle. So in most of the purchases we do through our business, it is something that we do look for to recover the value of the vehicle. But every part is valuable to us. So if it's a mechanical or collision part, so the collision side will help repair that vehicle at a lower cost and more sustainable, where the mechanical side will help that vehicle get back on the road again due to not many other options through an engine. So you've got a reconditioned product, but a cost-effective saving.
Now, Chris, just another question for me following on from that. Parts like catalytic converters, are they very high value? Do you get a high demand? Because you hear of these getting stolen off new vehicles, where people get underneath and remove them. Is that high value in your part of the business? Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of the largest, highest value part of the scrap process that we have today. So with those, the rhodium, palladiums and platinum precious metals, they're only increasing in price. So we recover every one of them from our salvage vehicles and then send them to the mill for processing.
So when we look at the parts, I'm just thinking from an engine perspective, engines tend to last or cross over a number of models, say in a vehicle's model life. So you'll have, if you say Holden, for example, there are VT Series 1, VT Series 2, VX, etc. So those engines would carry across. So there'd be a lot of demand and usage for that type of engine. I'm guessing the same sort of thing goes for many brands, because although there are minor changes along the way, those parts can actually fit and cross over a number of year models. So how do you actually get the message out as to what parts are available?
From an availability point of view, we still run very much a phone style contact from our customer base today. So it is a call to inquire, and then we deliver what we have available. I think using your example of the Commodore, you do have many different series of engines. So we do use sophisticated software and programs within our industry to say what the interchangeability is, because we really want to get that supply through to our customer. Sometimes it's not a one-for-one. We know there's a lot of super sessions within part numbers from the OE. So we get that information, and we know from an industry point of view of what we'll interchange back through to the different models. And you're right, I think your Commodores are a good example for that, where they do change a series, but the mechanical and the panel generally roll through with a trim upgrade or changes with that in the vehicle. But yeah, just our software interchange and our own understanding of that model helps us be able to increase that supply.
That's incredible. So from a recycling perspective, you've got a lot of data. Because I'm thinking the recyclers that I've dealt with many years ago in the past, it was you'd go in there, there'd be the really nasty Alsatians that would be chained up, and these cars bodies would be stacked up on top of each other, and you'd have to remove a part off the car. Is that the process now, or how does that work how does someone know what to get, or do they have to go in and pick their own part, or what's the process?
Yeah, look, ACM is a very different model to any other, to most other dismantlers out there in the market today. We're nearly 100% data-driven, customer demand profile. So we, from a sales, it starts with our sales staff. So as they search for a particular part or a SKU line within our system, it'll record any kind of demand, so a request or a sales demand. We then extract that information. We've probably got near on 1 million SKU lines across the makes and models that we stock. And then we can target every part that does fail or is required for a repair against every model in the Australian market today. So we'll buy. So we review every auction nationally on a daily basis, and then we build a bid against each of those vehicles based on the demand of each part off them. So using your Commodore as the example, how many engines we need to how many doors to tail lights, which then based on the demand across that whole vehicle, we'll build up a bid for that vehicle, go through to auction. Hopefully, if we've got enough demand and our pricing's right and we've got a good customer base, we'll be able to own that one. It'll come into the site. We'll print our tags, QC the product, and then it's barcoded onto our shelves, ready for our sales staff to search.
That's phenomenal. So you're at the auction. You've already worked out how much of that vehicle is saleable at X price, and you've then got the understanding that your maximum bid is this to maintain a margin, given that you're going to have stock holding potential costs associated with that. So your buyers are well armed versus the other buyers that are there just working on gut feel?
Look, the industry, and I've got a long history in the industry, and it was on gut feel. As a salesperson, you could feel what the market was wanting, but you're always very skewed to your brand or to what you preferred along the way. So you probably over purchased in some models, and then probably under purchased, not knowing that your customers were asking for something that just didn't really hit your radar. So by using that data model and getting the information on a daily basis from our sales team with the inquiry we get, it does help us stock our shelves today. The model that ACM Parts runs is very unique, where we don't store the dismantled vehicle on site after the dismantle process. So at the point in time that we inventory that vehicle, we extract the parts so we know we're going to sell in that market, and then the rest of the vehicle does go to scrap. So probably like your example you started with there, that the cars stacked 3-4 high, held in the yard for 6, 12, 18 months. It's not the ACM model in that one. We want fast turning and really meeting our customers' demand and requirements. To have that part on the shelf, quality checked, packaged, ready for dispatch.
So once you strip the parts off, you talk about packaging. So then you clean and package them, or do you just, whatever state they come off, you just put them into some sort of bag or a box? Or what's that sort of process, Chris?
So within our panel range, we run a QC process at the point of our vehicle arriving, because all of our vehicles that we purchase, we don't go to the auction house anymore. It's all online. So you don't get that pure indication of small dents or damage. So run through a QC process there. When we dismantle the vehicle, they go through a secondary QC process. And then they come into our warehouses where we package, re-QC that product again, just to ensure that it does meet our customer. Packaged as an OE box. You walk through any one of our warehouses in any of our states. Our new parts and our reclaimed parts sit side by side, and there's no difference. Properly packaged in cardboard boxes with bubble wrap and foam around the edges, just to ensure that quality gets to our customer.
That's incredible. That's a quantum leap to where the traditional recyclers were with the where you've got to go in and with some spanners and some sockets and take the parts off and hopefully don't damage it, and hopefully it's actually serviceable. So having that quality control makes a lot of sense. So when we think of batteries, now batteries traditionally have been a fairly highly sought after recycled process because they've got lead and they've got acid and there's usually a plastic case. That's the traditional battery. But now we've had 20 years of hybrids. What happens with hybrid and EV batteries? Because I'm guessing you would have recycled some of those along the way?
From an EV or a hybrid, we really haven't gone into that EV style vehicle yet. I think they're still quite new. They haven't really come through the salvage side of the industry yet, but definitely a hybrid. And Toyota products and those manufacturers that have been in that area for a long time, it is starting to become an issue. They're getting to that end of their life, and how do you recycle that battery? And it has been a bit of a slow burn to get to where we are today of what can we do with this product. It's not an easily recycled product. Most of the vehicles that we buy, the battery is actually the value of the vehicle. So where your engine is no longer the major value part of our vehicle, the batteries now. So your Camrys and your hybrid Priuses and things that are being used for Ubers and taxis and things like that, they're in high demand. So most of the products we buy, we resell back into that market again as a second-hand product. There's a few companies that are doing reman style arrangements. So they're rebuilding them and getting them back into service again. There's some recycling companies as well, which they're recycling about 98% of the product within the battery now. So we actually are starting to see that recycling side of the battery. But then your OEs such as Toyota doing rebates on if you return the battery back to one of their sites, I'll give you I think it's $100 at the moment to get that battery back out of service again. So a lot of work, but I think you're right. I think from the size and the volume that we're going to see over the next few years, particularly with that growth in that market, it is important to ACM and the industry to ensure that they aren't going into landfill.
Another question for me is, because with these batteries have been traditionally recycled, the normal ones, and now the hybrids, airbags, because they're explosive. How do you manage the risk and safety protocols around dismantling a vehicle with all of these airbags? It used to just be a steering wheel. Now it's dash, it's seats, it's curtains coming out of the roof. What's the process there? I'm just keen to get an understanding here. And have you had any issues?
Never had an issue, thankfully. As a business, we, from a resale point of view, we don't sell any airbag related components just for that safety risk. And I think Takata has been that really predominant one in the headlines of late, where from a manufacturing point of view, we obviously didn't want to run that risk. So we do recycle each of them. So from a removal point of view, our first step to any dismantle is disconnect the battery, just to remove any kind of risk in that explosive side of things. We put a lot of training into each of our dismantlers, so we run in excess of 40 dismantlers nationwide, just to ensure that they know how to remove that product in a safe way, just from that safety side of things. But yeah, probably as we see vehicles with 7, 8, 9, 10 airbags and a lot more electronics within a vehicle, it is quite a hot topic in our industry at the moment.
So, yeah, just adding on to what you said, I think it's a really good question. I think it's the same with EVs, because it's high voltage and it's going to be quite difficult to handle, because it's not so easy just to connect it like you did the 2 terminals and it was disconnected like a traditional type battery. Do you think it's going to be a major challenge? Because everybody is saying, oh, you're going to get second use of life of these EV batteries. But do you think it's going to be a big challenge for the recycling industry to manage the big volumes once they start coming through?
I think from an OE perspective, it is something that's coming through about how we manage this product after the fact. And I think that's the important part of our industry, lobbying government to ensure that these vehicles are coming off the road in a safe manner, and they are being disposed of by facilities like ACM Parts to manage that. Because you are right, I think from the high risk to just our staffing point of view of how to disconnect that battery, everything's sealed in the lifestyle vehicle. Where you get an accident damaged vehicle, you do run the exposure of it being damaged within the accident in that space. I think there's definitely organisations at the moment providing us training on how to remove them and the risks associated with these products. So once we start to get into that EV dismantling process, then we'll run our teams through those training methods to ensure that we are extracting these products and storing and recycling them in a safe and sustainable way.
I think it's incredible when you think of just the range of products that you're dealing with, because it's the powertrain items that you get across over so many models. It's the panels that can keep a 10-year-old car on the road cost effectively, and especially now with residual values being stronger, there'd be probably more demand to recondition cars rather than to just crush them. But even things like wheels, I'm guessing when you're buying a vehicle, the alloy wheels are usually, in the old days, used to be high demand items with decent tyres. If you could get a car that had decent wheels and decent tyres, that was a bundle that you'd sell. Do you sell it as a bundle, or do you take the tyres off and sell them separately, or just recycle them separately and have the wheel alloys as a separate sale? I'm just kind of keen to understand what is the ACM model there.
We have some really great processes within our business across different states. In one state, we remove the tyres off the rims, and they get purchased by a reseller. So we're actually supplying second-hand tyres to the market. So we're not using new ones, and they're a great alternative. Most of our vehicles that come in have tyres with 60-70% tread remaining on. There's nothing wrong with them. So being able to reuse them again to stop the remanufacture of that product, and then the alloy wheel gets scrapped. And from a clean alloy point of view, there's good recovery in that. And with the volume, that 800 odd vehicles we dismantle in a month, there is good returns on that. From other states, every one of them, we remove the tyre just to ensure that we are separating the rubber and that value of the product, and then extracting the clean alloy back into the recycling. Then the tyres, there's some great new initiatives out there in Victoria that they're looking to put it into roads. And then into your fake turfs and things like that, just to reuse that rubber again. So supplying to those reputable tyre recyclers, we know that they're actually going to good use somewhere else and not just going to landfill.
Chris, at the end of life, once you've taken out all the components you require and you've removed the scrap metal, what's the final percentage that goes to landfill? And in what sort of form does it go into landfill? Are there restrictions around that?
So we extract the value from the precious metals or the alloys or those things, and we separate them, and they go straight for recycling. We get then left with what's the shell of the vehicle. So that carries your plastics and your carpets and your trims and your bits and pieces like that. we send them off to your scrap merchant. They will process it through their recycling facility. And it's estimated about 20% of what's remained in any vehicle does go to a landfill. So that's extracted through their processes, where it does get, probably seen the videos before, and it goes through little rollers and choppers and it separates that metal. So a lot of that does go to a landfill in the end. But a lot of plastics and things now, like your bumper bars, they're getting chipped up and then reused into pallets and other products like that. So we are getting better, and the industry is looking at different ways to be able to reuse all of that product and get close to that 100% that the car is fully recyclable.
It's interesting, Chris, just what you've outlined with ACM Parts and the innovations, and it's very, I must admit, I'm very impressed how you've taken what has been an industry that's been around for a long time and it's next level. So through introducing processes and procedures. So I'm keen to get your perspective as what the future holds for the industry and your business. Because one thing I'm just keen to know is there a rationalisation? Are there less smaller recycling yards now? Is there more? Are you accumulating businesses or increasing sites or increasing your footprint? What's the future hold?
So footprint-wise, we operate out of the East Coast, so your Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria markets. We're now in the WA market as well, processing vehicles, mainly at the moment just for the resale of auto parts back as a recycled option into the market. I see the industry has a really bright future. I think that there's a lot to learn from our industry as we all look towards climate change and the environment and different initiatives like that. I think we're one of the industries that probably hasn't had the focus that we can deliver to government and to the OEs to really recycle that vehicle. So strategies like the ELV process we see in other international areas where there's a rebate style program to manage that end-of-life process and make sure we are recycling our vehicles. They're not ending up in landfill or oils running down our drains and things like that. So from an industry point of view, it is bright in that respect. I think from an ADAS products, the electronic products and things like that, a vehicle and its dismantle and the value of that vehicle is going to change considerably. I think that once we go to electrics and batteries and things like that do last longer, we are going to see, and we're already seeing it today, that the value of the electronics has increased, and it is adding to the cost of repair. So we'll be able to supply a lot of those parts. So I think long term, there's still a great future for our industry. But then look to how do we manage the end-of-life vehicle is probably the most important one that we can all contribute today.
I've got one other question. Is it hard to get people to work in the industry?
Yes. I think ACM has a great model where we can invest in our people, and we have great success. And particularly myself, I'm a mechanic by trade that's been able to work through the industry and through ACM Parts and grow within this industry. But we offer that with all of our team members, from a sales rep to a dismantler. But from a people person, yeah, we do struggle. And I think particularly our dismantling roles today, that just trying to find that skilled work is a challenge.
So where do you go looking for? Where can you get those people? Do you grow them yourself, or are they tradespeople from other, like qualified technicians that you get, or technical assistants that you get? Where do you get them from?
Look, what we love is a mechanic, someone that understands how the vehicle comes apart and not so much putting it back together. So a much easier job for most.
Yes.
So we do like to target that mechanic. And I think as an industry, from what we're perceived as to what we actually are, it's fantastic. Like we're wrecking brand new AMG Mercs down to a late model Land Cruiser to a hybrid vehicle. So the variety that we offer within our business is really exciting, and most of the dismantlers I speak to do enjoy it. And I think from other side, we do love to grow our people. So we generally bring people in that haven't really experienced the automotive industry as more on the ground stock controllers or warehouse people to sales reps to yard hands, and then grow them internally, because we know that our success comes from our people, and we know that we need to grow within ourselves to keep them progressing through to higher levels or leadership roles within the business.
And is there a gender mix? Do you get are there more women getting involved in the industry? Are you seeing that from an even more so technical perspective? Is that starting to grow?
Yeah, very much so. And we do employ some great people across both genders, and particularly some females within our industry today. And they come through our sales teams we've got large finance teams, we have dismantlers, we have warehouse workers. So yeah, it's great to see that we are building that depth within women within our automotive industry.
Fantastic. And the mum and dad wrecker, are they disappearing?
Not so much. I think the industry is probably changing a little bit in that respect, but we've had a couple of great years coming through COVID, and when there's been a part supply shortage, we've seen our salvage increase significantly. But I think it has been good times for us. People are retaining their cars a bit longer. They're repairing their car like they wouldn't have done pre-COVID, where we are today. So no, I think the industry is extremely strong, and we are seeing the yards those families still within the industry today.
I think it's incredible, just when you were saying that you've got your buyers can go to an auction or not view it online and know straight away through data that's the price we pay for that car. If it's had, say, a right front damage, the front guard's gone, probably the front struts are no good, maybe the right-hand front door's no good, the subframe's probably no good, but we're good to sell that engine with that transmission, all the left-hand side panels, the interior dash is probably okay, and we'll get money for the seats and the tail lights. Just trying to figure it out. That's how much you should pay for it. That's powerful.
It's probably the most exciting part for myself, and I from an industry point of view, coming through from buying on gut feel to seeing how you win 3 months later, we have refined that process to a point where we know that we're going to recover on that vehicle within a very short period of time, and then we know that we're going to move 90% of that product off our shelves within a 6 to 9 month time frame. So we know we're putting the right product on the shelf for our customers, and then just building that depth. So ensuring that we're carrying 3 to 6 month coverage of any one of those products, those fast moving products, so that we are able to supply the industry at any point in time, regardless of the supply of vehicle that we can purchase. Because a lot of that product, if you can't get the value out of it, you might need a tail light for that vehicle today, but you don't really need anything else. You can't recover the cost of that. So it is important to really make sure that you are stocking well and probably overstocking to ensure you get that supply into your customer.
So age stock, is that something that you really look at and say, well, let's not buy any of Model X? I won't say any particular brand, but say some obscure vehicle. It's like, there's not much demand for those rear tail lights or those engines, so let's not pay too much for that, or let's not even buy that. Is that the sort of thing that happens?
Not really. We base every vehicle on the demand we have from our customer. So regardless if it's a brand new 20 or 21 model vehicle to a 90s model Hilux, if we know our customer's asking for that product, we can pinpoint it down to every single part, and we cover that range, and we cover all makes and models down to your MGs, to your new Chinese models coming in, up to your most popular being Corollas and Rangers and those kind of products. So with that data model and our customers driving the outcome and the data we get from the group, from the panel repair, we can really pinpoint it and be that supplier to all and have good depth and strong supply.
Chris, do you at the end of it have like dead stock? At the end of every year, you say, okay, well, we need to write off 1% or 2% because that stock we've ended up with parts that people are just not buying.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not perfect, and we do end up with that. We might overstock some parts, or that demand wasn't quite there at the time. So we do generally a yearly cleanse of aging stock on our product on our shelves. Probably about the vast majority of that is recyclable, so we'll put that into scrap bins. We do run some export strategies to move that offshore to other customers or international buyers that have demand for that product where we don't. We sell a little bit back into the industry again to make sure that we are kind of getting that reuse, so we're not going to landfill. So we'll do anything that we can from a business point of view to recover on that product before sending it to scrap.
And your sales teams, what's the process? Who do are they targeting the repairers? And I'm guessing if you're doing that, you must have a huge sales force to go out to do that.
Yeah, so we run two sales teams. We run a mechanical-based sales team, so they're working with the workshop, the industry. So the other, we have a lot of dismantlers that purchase our product off us, and then the consumer market as well. Very targeted phone sales. And then the collision side is very much targeted at the body shop, repeat buyer, our group, so the AMA group as well. But yeah, we have a workforce of, I think it's nearing 60 sales members within that team to sell the product to our customer today.
But Chris, in terms of that export market, is that not a big potential? So I heard that there was a big demand for parts, especially into like India and Africa, those sort of markets that run especially a lot of older type cars. Is there potential there or not really?
Yeah, there is. I think we do see a large majority of our product at the salvage purchase at the point from an auction house being purchased for export reasons. So that side of the industry is one part. And then from our own business, we are buying to meet the Australian demand, but it is something that we are looking at. And we do get a lot of products at the dismantle point of view, at the point where the engine's not required, but the transmission is, vice versa. So we do try and find an end user for that product into those markets as well.
Now, Chris, your background? You're a technician. Where did you learn your craft?
So second generation dismantler. My parents owned a large yard in Victoria. So I went through high school and was always destined to run the family dismantling facility. So I finished my year 11, qualified motor mechanic, then worked for the family. And then went up into other dismantlers for some in central Victoria, and then had the opportunity at ACM Parts about 5 years ago as a state sales manager. Worked my way through ACM through product pricing, national sales roles, and now the GM of recycled operations within ACM, so managing the end-to-end process of a salvage vehicle to our customer. So from the buying to the recycle part of that vehicle.
Wow! So you have a very unique skill set that you really know the recycling business, and you know what people want, and you know how to pick it and then market it. That's fantastic.
It is, and fundamentally, we need to run as a dismantler to get that value. So making sure you're maximising every part of that vehicle from the purchase point to the parts you remove, to what you stock, to what you recycle, and what goes in to that customer. But on the other hand, ACM has taught me a lot, and hopefully industry as well, of how do you really refine your process to a point where you know where your value is at any point in time, and that data side coming through as a mechanic and into the industry data was something that I'd never had an appreciation for or understanding, and it was always better that I know what to buy. You can't tell me what my system is saying. So yeah, it's been a very interesting 5 years with ACM Parts and what we've done with our business to get it to where it is today. So exciting times ahead, and probably a lot more to learn.
And in terms of the dismantling, sorry, one last question. Do you have a sort of a time saying, okay, to dismantle this type of car should take, 3 days, or is there a sort of time schedule that the guys work to, or can you not do that?
From my point of view, it's always too slow, of course. But again, we do look to remove. We generally, about 20 to 25 parts we remove to be stocked on our shelves in the warehouse. So we generally look to our dismantlers within about a 4-hour window to dismantle, on average, most cars. So you get a full drive that's with 40 odd parts. It will be a slower process that a passenger vehicle with 10, so as it averages out. But we are going to implement a production line style process within our Victorian facility, something that's not really seen in the Australian market, very much over in the European markets we see it. But how do we increase that throughput of our vehicles, really ensure that we can look for that skilled team member to remove the engine and transmission and the technical side to somebody that wants to come into our industry and grow within it to remove tail lights and doors and do the inventory processes as well. So we want to increase that time. We want to decrease that time of how long it takes to process a vehicle, and really challenge ourselves and the industry of how many cars can you put through a facility on a single day.
Because that must be really tricky. I'm a tech from way back. I actually grew up in a country town on the border of Albury-Wodonga. So removing parts from from a good car is hard enough at times. From a crashed car where metal is covering where things get undone or sharp edges, etc., it must be quite difficult to carefully remove things, given that the vehicle is not a pristine car coming in and just there's a process to unbolt this and unbolt that. that must slow the process down, or does it invite the opportunity just to cut things out and just get them out of the way quickly?
We do avoid cutting. As soon as you cut, you've got exposure to fuels and different flammable kind of components in those cars. So as a business, we do try and buy. So it all starts with the buying process. If something's significantly hit in the front, generally the better than average chance that you've got a damage to the engine or a transmission or a high value component. But look, it does happen. And we do see with bull bars a lot where they do fold around. You unbolt them and you get that fold up point where you got to do some cutting. But it is something from our point of view that we do regulate pretty well, and we don't use any gas axes or products like that. It's generally non-spark style tools. But yes, it can be challenging. It can slow down our processing times. But again, all part of a day's work at ACM.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We really need an industry awareness of who we are. And you're right, the stigma of, and we don't like to consider ourselves a wrecking yard as such anymore. I think we're well and truly past that point now. And we really need to be seen in the market as we are a company supplying quality auto parts to a repair. I think a lot of it is people like yourselves inviting us to shows like this to really get people to stop and think about what does a dismantler look like today, and how do we help our supply chain in times where there's low supply. Even to a dealer point of view, the dealer can't carry everything. And as a recycler, we should be able to support some of those parts within that repair as well. But again, just your consumer market, where a consumer, mum and dad drive their car in for a repair and they're paying $1,000 for the same part that we would sell for $300 to $400, that is just as good, that will see the life of the vehicle out and really save that consumer that value. It does come from many different levels within a market. Some of our larger customers are dealers, your local dealers that do see value in our product from a used car point of view to a consumer that can't afford the new alternative as well. So yeah, look, we obviously understand that an OE can bring in high volume and they want to sell their new parts, but they're not always available. They're not available in the right time or the right place. And we really do target, from our own group point of view, we're bringing in a lot of new models and making sure they've got that supply to lower the cost of repair within our business. But then also being able to supply that target range of that 8 to 12 year vehicle where the OE has stopped supply or reduced supply into that market is where we really come in to continue the life of that vehicle.
And Chris, if someone's interested in your products or wants to get hold of you, how do they get in contact with you? What do they need to do?
The easiest way, we've got a great website at acmautoparts.com.au. Give us a call, or we use different products through the collision repair industry of Parts Check. So many different ways that we can trade with our customer, or our socials, so social media of Facebook or Instagram.
I think it's incredible, and thank you for coming on the show, because it's been an eye-opener for me, and I've been in the industry for a few years now, and having spent time with auction houses and with written off vehicles and recovered vehicles, it's great to see that data is the foundation of how ACM Parts goes about doing what you guys do. And also the fact that you guys are such significant contributors to reducing the environmental impact with the end-of-lifing of vehicles, but also vehicles that have been involved in collisions and really extracting the most value out of those, so that you're actually helping the auto repair industry keep vehicles on the road. Especially now in this day and age where supply chains for new parts are stretched. And you mentioned the electronics, the shortage of chips. Well, you just have to look to your shelves and you've got them because they're here already. You don't have to wait for a boat to bring them in or an aeroplane to fly them in. You've got them here already. And we know that they work because they were working in a car just recently. So it really makes sense for the industry to look more towards you for solutions for mobility. Because ultimately, that's when John and I talk about this show and what is the auto industry about. It's really about mobility. And often we forget, we think it's about a model with a certain engine or a certain look about it. But ultimately, it is about mobility, how fast you want to get there or how safe you want to get there. And it's great that you guys also do everything you do is with a view for safety. Safety for your people, safety for your customers. and safety for the environment, for us as the community, because you're very conscious as to what you do with the oils, etc., the coolants, and you don't leave vehicles just sort of sitting around slowly leaching all these toxins into the soil and your yards, because you take all the good bits out, and the bits that you don't want to resell, you've already moved them to the scrap merchants, and you're really minimising what that actual footprint in landfill is. And it's fascinating. John, I did not know 80% of a vehicle is recycled. That's a huge percentage. And Chris, you're saying that there's actually upside even more than 80% to be recycled, which I get actually more excited about. And this is where I think the auto industry gets a bad rap, because there's a lot of hype about, buying these cars, they end up in landfill. Well, it's actually not true, because there are businesses like yours that actually do a great job of repurposing and extending the life out of those materials, given there's precious metals in there. And I think it's exciting also that even with the tyres and the wheels, how you separate that. Alloys go one way, the tyres get used either on vehicles, but if they're not fit for purpose of vehicles, they end up in road surfaces or in playground, keeping the kids safe so when they fall off swings. Yep. So it's there's a hell of a lot. There's a hell of a lot, and I really appreciate you sharing the story about ACM Parts and how you go about it.
Look, it's been great, and it is an industry that I'm very passionate about, and one that I think a lot of people should look a bit closer at, because I think we are doing great things for not only for the auto industry, but also for the environment as we move through as well. So really appreciate you inviting us on the show today.
All right, Chris, thanks very much. It's been very interesting talk.
Thanks for listening. Hopefully you got as much out of today's show as we did. Chris really outlined some exciting new ways that the auto dismantling business is going down, and also the fact that not much of a vehicle ends up in landfill. A figure that really astounded me, John.
If you like what you heard, subscribe to our channel by hitting the subscribe button below. Follow us on iTunes and Spotify, and you can visit our website, autocurrents.com. Thanks very much for listening.